Hey Seth, this is I'll give you an example of what I can do, just so you can so you can tell me what you think. All right. Um, okay. I'll call it. Am I a poet like you? Are you a poet like me? Something like that. Are you a poet? Are you like me, or am I like you? Do I know if I'm even a poet? Sometimes I don't even show that I think I'm a poet. If I'm a poet, someone told me once, that's about it. I've had people say nice things, but poetry is something that still, it gives me difficulty. Sometimes it makes me want to sing. I'll sing songs and I'll do things that make me think poetry's my thing. And then I get tired of poetry and I want to go ahead and do something else that I think is a little bit more that I like to do, and I'm not sure, and then poetry calls me. And then words is what I hear in my head, but I don't hear them all the way through it. Sometimes it's just God saying, go ahead, son, and say words that you like, say words that come through, and say words that sing to you. Say words that you believe can be true, but don't worry about the words not coming through. Don't even think too much when you say words, because the best words come when they just come through. Don't get in the way. God's voice is a powerful way to say the most amazing things with the simple words. That's poetry, is God's way. God creates with words. God creates life. God created everything. Words were his delight. They still are, and that he knows how to speak to us, and he speaks through poets, is what God tells us. He speaks through poets, and he still creates a lot of amazing things through the poets, even the ones who make mistakes. Poetry is a powerful thing that I believe is the reason why the world changes and can be an instrument of change, because that's the way God says it is to me and to him and to those who believe in poetry. Poetry is not a big way to make money, but it's a way to make some honey, a way to make change, because it plants the seeds. God's way. God speaks to me a lot, and I speak to him. And Seth, this is the way that God speaks to me. I want to try it and see. God wants me to say, if Seth Walker, you're a man who knows poetry, then you're a man who can teach a man maybe what he needs, so that poetry can be something that he believes can be something, a part of something else that he tries to do, which is what God needs. God needs this man to go ahead and learn how to say things in words that maybe others have never heard, describe things in ways that maybe others might believe is a different way that they've heard the tempo and the pace and the speed. The description is important too, and poetry is about measuring what some people might say is a way of thinking and feeling and looking that changes their perspective that other people say. I heard something powerful, and it was something that I heard. And maybe a man speak on a hill, and he changed my life because the words were so deep, and they still feel deep because words change. Civilization, thousands of years ago, the seeds of transformation were on that man who stood on top of that mound of sand. And that was my son. Is God's going to say. If the difference between the words from a man who spoke back then, when Christ spoke, is what God tells me, is the words weren't just the words, they were also the man who spoke, and the words went deep. Poetry can be that way because it can inspire men to change, women to change. It can inspire ideas that bring greater change. It can inspire speeches to be greater than they could have been. And poetry is not only a complicated thing, it's a simple thing too. I don't even know if I'm a poet. Mr. Oman isn't even sure. But he likes art, and he likes it from the start. He liked it when he was back in a kid. He went to film school and didn't really. And I did. English, and I had creative writing long time ago. I did a little poetry, but then I left it back then. Back to the poem. But the poem is this. If a poet is me, because I don't know if it's true, I do a lot of poetry. And it's a lot of it inspired by God, because I didn't do poetry to what I think is a good quality until just about a couple years ago. And maybe you can see some of the best things that I think that I've done are freestyle like this, and I think sometimes I just run my mouth endlessly, and the words sometimes surprise me because the way they sound and what they express and the image they create, it sometimes amazes me. I literally have done poems where I start to weep. Not because the poem is great, but because I believe that it's God that helps me speak. It's God that helps me with words that reach to me from Him. It's an amazing experience. Yeah, I have a lot of faith, and that's a big part of me. And I don't think, for me, that's a problem with poetry. These poets can be, pretty secular too, but they do things that change men, change women. They change the world. They have. Revolutionaries have been poets. They started wars. They went ahead and got the women and scored. They do a lot of things. And probably believe important people were born because some woman heard an important poem. And then the guy said, I'm home. But if you're a poet like me and believe that change in the world is something that an artist can do, because I think I'm an artist, is what I say, and I hope that's true. I'm pretty sure. I do have a creative mind. I know it's true, and I do think a lot about life, and I think about what has not come true. A lot of it has been inspired by pain that poems expressed. If you read them and say, you understand exactly what might be I'm saying or not, and you could maybe tell me if I'm doing something wrong. More right. Right and wrong is a relative thing too, because I don't think poetry should have really any rules. I know there's haikus and shit like that, but that's like, I don't really get that. The mechanics or something like that. Just, I'm not sure it's something that tracks. But if I get a poetic streak, then it's not to write down. I don't write down as much as I used to. It makes me frown. But poetry, just for talking it out. It's like singing lyrics too. I like that a lot. So if you think that you're a poet who can maybe help me, just a little, just when you got time, maybe a short message or something, encouraging word. Because encouraging words, when they're heard, they can be powerful to inspire someone to believe. To give them fuel to keep on going and not just be something that just is off the cuff. Because if you're a poet that knows, and I think you are, you're dedicated to the cause of humanity, and so am I. And that's ultimately what my life needs to be and wants to be. A little secret that I have, which is not, you'll see it on my Facebook pages if you look. Addiction has been a part of my life, has been a curse. And addiction is a powerful story for me. It's not something I lived on the street, but it's something that I know a lot about. I know about the pain, and I know about the way that addiction takes the spirit and rips it out. It takes us and puts us in places when we're high, when we're hating ourselves, and we just want to cry, and we hate and feel things beyond anyone should feel. It's traumatizing to be that way, but we don't know that it's not real. When we're there, it's like real. We got God, the devil, and all that shit going around. We got different realms and speak from different places, outer space engines. We got talking sheep. And there's all kinds of things that happen, and they feel so real. That's a powerful lesson place for someone like me who feels it. I don't want to go back there, because it's also somewhere that God doesn't want me to go back anymore, because that's where I did learn a lot of things about man and me. So if you're a poet like me, and if I'm a poet, thank you for telling me. And if you're a man who can help me just maybe a bit or just talk a little, that'd be cool, brother. Thank you. That's it.